Released in 2016, Shin Godzilla was a reinventive, yet happily traditional take on the Godzilla franchise. Co-directed by Hideaki Anno and Shinji Higuchi, the film went on to gain critical and financial acclaim. It's personally one of my favorite Godzilla films released, so you could expect my shock when it was announced a new edition of Shin Godzilla was going to be released, with it being called the Orthochromatic Edition. Proposed by Anno and overseen by Higuchi, the film was re-rendered in orthochromatic, giving it that classic black and white feel similar to the 1954 original. If you want to experience this version of the film here in the States, you're going to need the Japanese released Blu-ray. Due to imports, this may cost an extra bit of cash. The question then being, is it worth it? Today, I'll give you my honest thoughts and share if this is worth a pickup. A quick disclaimer. This Blu-ray does not include English audio or subtitles. There are ways around this. For example, I watched the film off of my Plex server with subtitles to make this review. Something to keep in mind if you plan on purchasing. As usual, my home theater equipment will be in the description. Feel free to leave any questions on it in the comments, and be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoy the review. As mentioned, I watched the film off of my Plex server, but I also skipped through the actual disc to confirm what I'm seeing on the server itself was accurate. Starting off with the most apparent change, the movie has been converted to black and white. I honestly enjoyed the color of the original film, and I was heavily curious to see how certain scenes translated into black and white, and if they hit any different from before. My thoughts on the changes themselves will be noted with my final thoughts, but when it comes to the quality of the picture, I think for the most part it's really solid. It doesn't feel like you're missing any fine details while watching the film. The color grading doesn't detract much detail at all, with hair and even certain articles of clothing looking really solid. I found the whites to be super bright on the screen, which worked with the scenes that were using it, but found that sometimes blacks overshadowed certain moments, the end of Godzilla's beam attack being an example. Something that's a bit of a double-edged sword here is the CGI. Normally I wouldn't bring this up when discussing picture quality, but there are parts here where the color palette actually does better than the original cut at masking imperfections. Kamada-kun's evolution scene being an example that instantly comes to mind. With this though, I found that many of the smaller details don't take so well to the new color scheme. Things like smoke plumes when Godzilla steps, or rubble falling onto the ground are much more noticeable here than in the original cut. Though this doesn't have to directly do with the transfer itself, I find it worth noting. Getting to sound, I really like the effects used here. The surrounds aren't used constantly, but when they are used to great effect. Moments like hearing footsteps behind you when following government officials to their meetings, cars being tossed around as Godzilla rummages, and even small effects like pens rustling behind you add hints of additional life to the film while watching. Dialogue was almost always crystal clear, with the bass sometimes overpowering it. But let's be honest, having the bass here is a big selling point, and I'm happy to say it delivers. There's some heft to the audio, making moments that need that extra oomph work so well. We also get some special features, which include a video explaining the production process of this cut, Takashi Yamazaki selection talk show from Friday, October 27th, 2023, in specific, the 4th Godzilla screening with guest Hideaki Anno, and the trailer for the orthochromatic cut. Obviously no English subs here, but still awesome content to have. I'm sure at some point someone will subtitle these if they haven't already. For packaging, we get a nice black Blu-ray case and an all-black cover which shows off the orthochromatic poster. Nothing crazy, but the touch of using a black case is highly appreciated. So, is this worth the purchase? Personally, I think it's down to your enjoyment of Shin Godzilla. I find the change in color palette neat, but it's not the definitive way to watch the film in my opinion. As I had mentioned, the CGI is more noticeable here, even compared to the original cut. And while seeing certain scenes in this new palette adds a new perspective to them, I feel for the most part, the color version works much better. Obviously, none of this matters if you aren't a fan of the film. If anything, this feels like an additional add-on for fans of the original version. The biggest hurdle for most buyers is going to be the lack of English subs or dub. And if you don't have the means to get them to work with the film, it automatically kills the value of this purchase for most. This is not a negative towards the release itself, as this was specifically made for the Japanese consumer in mind. Overall, I'm quite happy with this release. If you're a fan of Shin Godzilla, or just the history of this franchise and its films, it may be worth the pickup just to see the film in a new light. Thanks for making it to the end of the review. If you own this release, be sure to leave a comment sharing your thoughts. And if you enjoyed the review, be sure to show your support by leaving a like and subscribing so you can see more from me. Thanks for watching. This has been Toby Satsu, and I hope that you have a great day.